So the author says, Surat Al-Ghashiyah, a Qur'anic chapter called Al-Ghashiyah. Al-Ghashiyah means that which covers. Makkiyah, it's a Meccan surah. وهي 26 آية. It is 26 verses. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. هل أتاك حديث الغاشية. Did the news of Al-Ghashiyah come to you, O Muhammad? هل بمعنى قد, meaning the news of Al-Ghashiyah came to you, O Muhammad. Al-Ghashiyah, the cover, is Ad-Dahiyah, the disaster. التي تغشى الناس بشدائدها. It is the disaster that covers the people with its intensities. وَتَلْبَسُهُمْ أَهْوَالُهَا. It is the disaster that dresses the people in its horrors. يعني القيامة. And that disaster is Resurrection Day, what some people would call Doomsday. وَقِيلَ النَّارِ. And it was said that the Ghashiyah, the cover or the coverer, is hell or the fire. Min qawlihi, that's due to another ayah from the Quran. وَتَغْشَى وُجُوهَهُمُ النَّارِ, which means the fire covers their faces. تَغْشَى وُجُوهَهُمْ. Yani, notice here, this ayah that we're quoting here, وَتَغْشَى وُجُوهَهُمُ النَّارِ. Now, this copy I'm reading from here doesn't have nice little brackets that usually you put Quran between some nice decorated parentheses or brackets like up here. So that's an ayah there, but whoever typed this up didn't put this ayah between brackets like they usually do. So notice here in this ayah, وَتَغْشَى وُجُوهَهُمُ النَّارِ. Notice the word تَغْشَى has the same root letters as غاشية. And notice here the word وُجُوهَهُم, their faces. And then in the next ayah of Surah Al-Ghashiyah, it mentions the faces. So some said that this Ghashiyah here in this surah called Surah Al-Ghashiyah, it's the fire. Imam An-Nasafiyy offered that as a second interpretation. He said this Ghashiyah, this cover or coverer, is Al-Qiyamah, Resurrection Day itself. And it was said to be hell. And then he quotes an ayah, وَتَغْشَى وُجُوهَهُمُ النَّارِ. The fire covers their faces. هَلْ أَتَاكَ حَدِيثُ الْغَاشِيَةِ. Did the hadith, the tale, the story, or the talk about Al-Ghashiyah come to you, O Muhammad? وُجُوهٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ خَاشِعَةٌ. Faces, a wujuhul kuffar, meaning the faces of the disbelievers. Yawma idhin, on that day, Yawma idh ghushiyat, the day when they're covered. Khashi'ah, they are humbled, debased. Dhalila. وإنما خص الوجه لأن الحزن والسرور إذا استحكم في المرء أثر في الوجه. And the point of mentioning the faces here is because sadness and happiness, when they overcome the person, their effect appears in the face. So faces on that day that are khashiyah, that are debased, degraded, humbled. لما اعترى أصحابها من الخزي والهوان, because of what those people are subjected to of shame and disgrace. Those people, what people? The people who have the faces. Because the ayah doesn't mention people per se, mentions faces. But that has what nice important word that I just reviewed today, English word, connotation. Connotation means alludes to something, alludes to something. The faces, meaning the people who have those faces. Amilatun nasiba, toiling, exerting, or exerting effort, exhausting effort. تعمل في النار عملا تتعب فيه. Those faces, meaning the people who have the faces, are going about in hell, doing whatever they do in hell exhaustedly. They do what is exhausting. وهو جرها السلاسل, dragging the chains, والأغلال, and the shackles, وخوضها في النار, and being immersed in fire. So خوضها في النار is like saying going into the fire. Like imagine if you had to get into the pool, so you get into the water. Or imagine if you had to go into a lake, for example. You're out camping, or you're a soldier, and you had to cross the water. You had to go into the water. So تخوض فيه, you go in there. وخوضها في النار, they're going into the fire. كما تخوض الإبل في الوحل, like the camel gets into deep mud. وارتقاؤها دائبة في صعود من نار, and they're having to ascend, crawling in ascension, in fire. وهبوطها في حضور منها, and they're stumbling into crevices of fire. وقيل عملت في الدنيا أعمال السوء والتذت بها وتنعمت فهي في نصب منها في الآخرة. And it was said that it means on earth they did bad deeds and they enjoyed them. And so they will be exhausted from them in the afterlife. Then this sentence here, I'm going to skip it. Tasla naran hamiyah, put into a hot fire to be set ablaze. Tadkhulu naran, those faces enter a fire. قد أحميت مددا طويلة, a fire that has been heated for a very long time. فلا حر يعدل حرها, so there is no heat equal to its heat. تسقى من عين آنية, given drink from extreme springs. Given drink from extreme springs. من عين ماء قد انتهى حرها, from a spring of water with Yani, that is as hot water could be, ultimately hot water. They will be given drink from a spring of water that is ultimately hot as hot water could be. والتأنيث في هذه الصفات والأفعال راجعة إلى الوجوه. So the femininity that's in these adjectives and verbs refers back to the faces, which I kept bringing up the faces in my translation. وَالْمُرَادُ أَصْحَابُهَا, but what's intended is the people of those faces, which is proven by the upcoming verse. بِدَلِيلِ قَوْلِهِ لَيْسَ لَهُمْ طَعَامٌ إِلَّا مِنْ ضَرِيعٍ. They have no food but from ضَرِيعٍ. They don't eat anything but ضَرِيعٍ. وَهُوَ نَبْتٌ, it's a plant. يُقَالُ لِرَبْطِهِ الشُّبْرُقُ. When it's moist, it's called شُبْرُقُ. وَإِذَا يَبِثَ فَهُوَ ضَرِيعٌ. And when it dries, it's called ضَرِيعٌ. وَهُوَ سُمٌّ قَاتِلٌ. It is lethally poisonous. وَالْعَذَابُ أَلْوَانٌ. And know that the torture of hell is various. وَالْمُعَذَّبُونَ طَبَقَاتٌ. And the people being punished in hell are of different levels. فَمِنْهُمْ أَكَلَةُ الزَّقُّومِ. Some of them eat from the tree of Zaqqum. وَمِنْهُمْ أَكَلَةُ الْغِسْلِينَ. And some of them eat the boiling pus. وَمِنْهُمْ أَكَلَةُ الضَّرِيعِ. And some of them eat the plant of ضَرِيعِ. فلا تناقض بين هذه الآية وبين قوله ولا طعام إلا من غسلين. Therefore, there is no contradiction between this verse that they don't eat anything but ضريع and the verse in Surah Al-Haqqah ولا طعام إلا من غسلين. They don't have any food but the boiling pus. لا يسمن ولا يغني من جوع. It does not fatten, this ضريع plant. مجرور المحل لأنه وصف ضريع. يعني, the meaning here is they don't have anything to eat but ضريع لا يسمن. ضريع that doesn't fatten. ضريع that doesn't fatten. Yani, this is an adjective. This sentence here is in the place of an adjective for the word ضريع. ضريع لا يسمن. ضريع that doesn't fatten. ولا يغني من جوع. Nor does it satisfy the hunger. أي منفعة الغذاء منتفيتان عنه. Meaning, the two reasons for nourishment are missing from this plant. وهما إماطة الجوع وإفادة السمن في البدن, which are to relieve hunger and to promote growth in the body. Well, he says semen though, fat, the fatness of the body, meaning as a sign of health though. وجوه يومئذ ناعمة. Faces on that day that are smooth. ثم وصف وجوه المؤمنين. Then after all this speech about the faces of the disbelievers, Allah described the faces of the believers. Remember what I had mentioned for you, that in the Quran you will find very frequently that Allah will mention something and then He will mention what's contrary to that. So here is one of those. After that discussion, that talk or speech about the faces of the blasphemers, Allah mentioned the faces of the believers. وَلَمْ يَقُلْ وَوُجُوهٌ لِأَنَّ الْكَلَامَ الْأَوَّلَ قَدْ طَالَ وَانْقَطَعَ. And there's no conjunction here in this ayah. وُجُوهٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ نَاعِمَةٌ. This ayah about the faces of the believers, it doesn't start with a wow, so it does not mean and faces on that day that are smooth. It just starts with no conjunction. Faces on that day that are smooth. Why? Because the first talk about the faces of the disbelievers was extensive. It went on. It went on for some time and then finished. So now this is newly initiated speech. وُجُوهٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ نَاعِمَةٌ. Faces on that day that are na'ima, mutanaimatun fi lini al-aish. I said smooth, and he explains it as yani basking in easy living. Basking, these faces are basking in easy living. لِسَعْيِهَا رَاضِيَةٌ. Appreciative of the effort that they had put. Those faces, meaning the people who have those faces, are appreciative of the effort that they put. رَضِيَتْ بِعَمَلِهَا وَطَاعَتِهَا. They're happy about the obedience. They're happy about the good deeds that they did and the obedience that they performed. لما رأت ما أداهم إليه من الكرامة والثواب. When those faces see what that effort got them, the honor and the reward that that effort got them, they appreciate what they did, all of what they went through. Yani, they're happy that they did it, that they endured that and did whatever they did that got them that. في جنة عالية. In a high garden. من علو المكان أو المقدار. High in place or high in status. And even though it says or here, there's no contradiction between the two. Or in Arabic could mean, in Arabic could mean and, or it doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. This one or that one doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. لا تسمع فيها لاغية. Not hearing therein vanities. So here, لا تسمع يا مخاطب أو الوجوه. Either this لا تسمع means you won't hear from تسمع أنت, or it means هي. Either تسمع is for أنت لا تسمع, or هي لا تسمع. So if it's أنت, you, then the meaning is you, the one who's being addressed. You won't hear therein in the garden any لاغية, any vanities. And if it's هي, we're going to translate here as they, then refers to the faces. Those faces won't hear. لا تسمع فيها لاغية. Those faces won't hear therein any vanities. So here Imam An-Nasafiyy, he offered as a tafsir for la tasma', that's addressing the one who's being addressed. You won't hear. But the other one, wujuh, that's consistent with everything that came before. Wujuhu yawma'idhin na'imah, faces on that day that are smooth. Li sa'yiha radiyah, for their striving, the striving of those faces, meaning the people who have those faces, their striving, the striving of those faces striving, those faces are pleased. Fi jannatin aliyah, in a high garden, those faces. La tasma'u fiha laghiyah, not hearing therein any vanities, those faces. Or you won't hear, O addressed one. Laghiyah ay laghwa, O kalimatan dhata laghu, O nafsan talghu, or it means they won't hear anyone spewing vanities. La yatakallamu ahlul jannati illa bil hikmah, the people of the garden speak only with wisdom. Walhamdulillahi ala ma razaqahum min an-na'imi da'im, and they speak only with praising God for what He provided them of everlasting bliss. Fiha aynun jariyah, therein are flowing springs. Ay uyunun kathira, meaning many springs. Ayn, that's a singular, and the meaning here is a type. So this doesn't mean there is a flowing spring in the garden. The real meaning is there are flowing springs in the garden. Ay uyunun kathira, meaning many springs. كقوله alimat nafs, just like in the previous surah that we have studied together. Alimat nafs, which means a soul will know on that day. A soul will know. What does it mean? It means every soul will know. Fiha sururun marfu'ah, and therein are sofas or lounges. Surur, jam'u sarir. Marfu'ah, that are elevated. Min rif'ati al-miqdar aw as-samk, yani having high status or even elevation. Also, those are not mutually exclusive. It's the case. ليرى المؤمن بجلوسه عليه جميع ما خوله ربه من الملك والنعيم, so that the believer would see by sitting upon this seat all of what his Lord has granted him of dominion and bliss. Because the believer with the least in paradise, it would take 1,000 years to cross his own land. وَأَكْوَابٌ مَوْضُوعَةٌ, and cups placed. أكواب جمع كوب. أكواب is the plural of كوب. وهو القدح. وقيل آنية لا عروة لها. It's the cup, and it was said to be without handles. Cups that don't have handles. Goblets. Placed. موضوعة بين أيديهم, put in front of them. ليتلذذوا بالنظر إليها, so that they would enjoy seeing them. Because the people of paradise, they have luxury. It's not only that something feels physically good, tastes good, for example, or feels nice or whatever. Also, they live in luxury there. So they enjoy what they have all around them when they see those nice things. And they have bracelets and they have nice robes and clothing and sandals. أو موضوعة على حافات العيون معدة للشرب. Or it means that those cups are placed at the banks, yani, placed around the springs, prepared for drink. وَنَمَارِقُ مَصْفُوفَةٌ. Namariq wasa'id. And aligned cushions, pillows. بعضها إلى جنب بعض, side by side. مساند ومطارح. يعني, they lean on them. I'm not sure how to explain masarid wa matarih. Masanid wa matarih, not sure how to explain that. أينما أراد أن يجلس جلس على مسودة واستند إلى الأخرى. يعني, wherever one wants to sit, he would be able to sit upon these pillows. And he would have some behind him for his back. وزرابي مبثوثة. And bustled carpets, عراض, that are wide, broad, فاخرة, very fancy. جمع زربية. مبثوثة, extended, spread out. أو يعني مبسوطة أو مفرقة, or it means dispersed في المجالس, dispersed in the sessions. ولما أنزل الله تعالى هذه الآيات في صفة الجنة. And when Allah revealed these verses about the description of the garden, وفسر النبي عليه السلام بأن ارتفاع السرير يكون 100 فرسخ. And when the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام explained that those sofas would be 100 farsakhs high. والأكواب الموضوعة لا تدخل في حساب الخلق لكثرتها. And when he explained that those placed cups are innumerable for the creations due to how many there are. وطول النمارق كذا. And when he explained that the length of the pillows is such and such. وعرض الزرابي كذا. And that the width of the carpets is such and such. أنكر الكفار, the blasphemers, objected to that. وقالوا كيف يصعد على هذا السرير. They said, how could someone even mount this sofa? How could you even get on a sofa that's so high? وكيف تكثر الأكواب هذه الكثرة. And how could there be that many cups? وتطول النمارق هذا الطول. And how could pillows be that long? وتنبسط الزرابي هذا الانبساط. And how could carpets be that vast? ولم نشاهد ذلك في الدنيا. And we never saw something like that in the world. وقال الله تعالى. And so Allah said, أفلا ينظرون إلى الإبل كيف خلقت. Do they not look at, meaning ponder on, the camels, how they were created? Ibil, that means camels with an S. Do they not ponder on how the camels were created? طويلة, they were made tall. ثم تبرك حتى تركب, but they kneel so that they could be ridden. أو يحمل عليها, or so that they could be loaded. ثم تقوم, and then they stand up. فكذا السرير, like that is that furniture in the garden. يطأطئ للمؤمن كما يطأطئ الإبل. It bends down for the believer like the camels bend down. And it will do that when the believer wants it to. All he has to do is want to get on it, it will bend down for him. وَإِلَى السَّمَاءِ كَيْفَ رُفِعَتْ. And didn't they look at the sky, meaning think about it, how it was elevated, رَفْعًا بَعِيدَ الْمَدَى, very remotely far away, very remotely high, bila imsakin wala amad, without anything, without a cable to dangle from, and without a pillar to hold it up. ثم نجومها تكثر هذه الكثرة, and its stars are that numerous, innumerable to the creations. فلا تدخل في حساب الخلق فكذا الأكواب. Like that are the cups. Yani means you have something in the world to compare that to. وَإِلَى الْجِبَالِ كَيْفَ نُصِبَتْ. And didn't they think about the mountains? Didn't they look at the mountains, meaning think about them? How they were erected, nasban thabitan, erected firmly, فَهِيَ رَاسِخَةٌ, and so they are anchored, لَا تَمِيلُ مَعَ طُولِهَا, and they do not swerve despite how tall they are. فَكَذَا النَّمَارِقُ. Likewise are those pillows. وَإِلَى الْأَرْضِ كَيْفَ سُطِحَتْ. And didn't they look at the earth? Didn't they think about it? How it is expanded. Sabha, it is made as a surface. It is made to be an expanded surface. Bitamhidin wa tawti'atin, yani a surface that is livable. فهي كلها بساط واحد. The whole earth is like one wide carpet. And بسط من الأفق إلى الأفق, from horizon to horizon. فكذا الزرابي, likewise those carpets. ويجوز أن يكون المعنى أفلا ينظرون إلى هذه المخلوقات الشاهدة على الشاهدة على قدرة الخالق. And it's valid that the meaning of these verses here is, do they not look at these creations that testify to the power of the Creator, حتى لا ينكر اقتداره على البعث, so that they wouldn't deny his power to resurrect, ويسمعوا إنذار الرسول, and so that they would hear the messenger's warning, ويؤمنوا به, and thus believe in him, ويستعدوا للقائه, and then prepare for meeting God's judgment. وتخصيص هذه الأربعة, and why were these four things mentioned? The camels and the sky and the earth and the mountains. Why were these four things mentioned? باعتبار أن هذا خطاب للعرب, by considering that the first to be addressed by these verses were the Arabs. So it's going to address those first recipients with what's familiar to them. وَحَفٌّ لَهُمْ عَلَى الْإِسْتِدْلَالِ, and it is an encouragement for them to think and to infer. وَالْمَرْءُ إِنَّمَا يَسْتَدِلُّ بِمَا تَكْثُرُ مُشَاهَدَتُهُ لَهُ And a person would merely infer from what he witnesses usually, what he sees a lot or witnesses a lot. Because you're going to infer from what you're familiar with. وَالْعَرَبُ تَكُونُ فِي الْبَوَادِي. And the Arabs, they were nomads. وَنَظَرُهُمْ فِيهَا إِلَى السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَالْجِبَالِ وَالْإِبِلِ. And so they used to see the sky and the earth and the mountains and the camels. فَهِيَ أَعَزُّ أَمْوَالِهِمْ. And the camels were their greatest commodity. وَهُمْ لَهَا أَكْثَرُ اسْتِعْمَالًا مِنْهُمْ لِسَائِرِ الْحَيَوَانَاتِ. And they used the camel more than they used any other animal. وَلِأَنَّهَا تَجْمَعُ جَمِيعَ الْمَآرِبِ الْمَطْلُوبَةِ مِنَ الْحَيَوَانِ. And because the camel gathers all of what is sought from animals. وَهِيَ النَّسْلُ, which is breeding, وَالدَّرْ, and milking, وَالْحَمْلُ, and working, وَالرُّكُوب, and riding, وَالْأَكْلُ, and eating, بِخِلَافِ غَيْرِهَا. As opposed to other types of animals, they don't have all of those benefits that the camel does. وَلِأَنَّ خَلْقَهَا أَعْجَبُ مِنْ غَيْرِهَا. And because the camel's creation is more astonishing than that of other animals. Although you might hear me say that and you'd say, well, camel looks pretty normal to me. It's because sometimes things that are very, they might seem normal to you. They would seem normal to you. It would be sometimes because you didn't reflect on them in a good way. It would be because of your own ignorance, really. And I'm included in that. And the reality would be that this matter is very amazing. Really, if someone believes in Allah Ta'ala and remembers Allah frequently, then all of this quote unquote normal world will be very astonishing. Just for the believer who's conscious of God's existence. When the grass blows, then he remembers Allah. Just to see the leaf blow away, he remembers Allah Ta'ala, or anything like that. Just to see the dust blow by, he will remember Allah. None of that is just normal for that believer. All of it is amazing. So if all this world around you is just normal, all these cars and all the people and the cats and squirrels and all that's just regular and normal, and the sun and the moon, then maybe you need to adjust your perspective. That camel is more amazing than other types of animals. That's a general statement there. فَإِنَّهُ سَخَّرَهَا مُنْقَادَةً لِكُلِّ مَنِ اقْتَادَهَا. Indeed, Allah created the camel submissive to anyone who would control it. بِأَزْمِنَتِهَا, by taking its reins. لَا تُعَازُّ ضَعِيفًا. It will not be stubborn with a weak one. وَلَا تُمَانِعُ صَغِيرًا. And it will not defy a child. وَبَرَأَهَا طِوَالَ الْأَعْنَاقِ. And Allah created them with long necks. لِتَنُوءَ بِالْأَوْقَارِ. Now I forgot what that means. I looked that up last week and I knew it, but I forgot it now. وَجَعَلَهَا بِحَيْثُ تَبْرُكُ حَتَّى تَحْمِلَ عَنْ قُرْبٍ. And Allah Ta'ala created those camels such that they would kneel so that they could be loaded, easily loaded. حَتَّى تَحْمِلَ عَنْ قُرْبٍ وَيُسْرٍ ثُمَّ تَنْهَضْ. And then it stands up. بِمَا حَمَلَتْ. It stands up with its whole load. وَتَجُرُّهَا إِلَى الْبِلَادِ الشَّاحِطَةِ. And then the camel will take that load to a far land. وَصَبَّرَهَا عَلَى احْتِمَالِ الْعَطَشِ. And Allah made the camel able to bear thirst. حتى إن ظمأها ليرتفع إلى العشر فصعد. It could bear without water for 10 days or more. ثم جعلها ترعى كل نابت في البراري. And Allah made the camel able to graze on any plants. مما لا يرعاه سائر البهائم. It can eat what other animals. It can eat what other animals cannot eat. فذكر. So remind, O Muhammad, فذكرهم بالأدلة. Give them the proofs ليتفكروا فيها so that they can think about them. إنما أنت مذكر. Merely you are a reminder. ليس عليك إلا التبليغ. You don't have a responsibility but to deliver. Meaning, you're not responsible for them, O Muhammad. Your responsibility is to deliver to them. لست عليهم بمسيطر. You are not in control over them. You are not a dominant one over them, or you're not domineering over them. بمسلط. You are not someone who has been unleashed on them, O Muhammad. كقوله وما أنت عليهم بجبار. That's like another ayah from the Quran, which means you are not a tyrant over them, O Muhammad. إلا من تولى وكفر. However, anyone who turned away and blasphemed, فيعذبه الله العذاب الأكبر. Then Allah will torture him with the big torture, the great torture, the enormous torture. الاستثناء منقطع أي لست بمسؤول عليهم. So the meaning is you are not responsible for them, O Muhammad. ولكن, however, من تولى منهم وكفر بالله. Any one of them who turned away and disbelieved in God, فإن لله الولاية عليه والقهر. Allah is in control of his affair and Allah has dominance over him. فهو يعذبه العذاب الأكبر. And it is he who shall punish him with the great torture. وهو عذاب جهنم, which is the torture of the pit of hell. وقيل هو استثناء من قوله فذكر. And it was said that إلا here is an exception from all the way up here. فذكر. So remind, O Muhammad, إلا من تولى وكفر. Except whoever turns away and blasphemes. Remind, except who turns away and blasphemes. أي فذكر إلا من انقطع طمعك من إيمانه. This means remind anyone that you're not hopeless of him believing, O Muhammad. وتولى, and he turned away. فاستحق العذاب الأكبر, and therefore he deserved the great torture. وما بينهما اعتراض. According to that, what's in between is parenthetical. إن إلينا إيابهم. Indeed, to us is, to our judgment is their return. رجوعهم. وفائدة تقديم الظرف التشديد في الوعيد. وأن إيابهم ليس إلا إلى الجبار المقتدر على الانتقام. Meaning to say, indeed, to us is their return. To our judgment is their return. That is to intensify the threat in the ayah. There's a threat in there. Their return to life is only for the judgment of Al-Jabbar, the one who is in control of everything, Al-Muqtadir, the Almighty God, Al-Intiqam, who has the power to punish. ثم إن علينا حسابهم. Then indeed on us is their reckoning. فنحاسبهم على أعمالهم. We shall judge them for their deeds. وَنُجَازِيهِمْ بِهَا جَزَاءَ أَمْثَالِهَا. And we shall pay them for their deeds what they deserve to be paid. وَعَلَى لِتَأْكِيدِ الْوَعِيدِ. And this ala here, ثُمَّ إِنَّ عَلَيْنَا حِسَابَهُمْ. Then indeed on us is their reckoning. That on us, their alayna, that's to intensify the threat even more. La lil wujub. And it's not for any obligation to say the reckoning is on God. Not, doesn't have any meaning or connotation of an obligation. إِذْ لَا يَجِبُ عَلَى اللَّهِ شَيْءٍ. Since nothing is obligatory on Allah. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. That's the end of the surah.